I sharpened up my Spyderco Smock knife the other night, and I'm not very happy with the results, so I'm going to go ahead and resharpen it tonight with my Pride abrasive stones. I took it to a 3K finish with the Sigma Select stones. I think I'm going to go ahead and start on the 1K and then work my way up to the 10K. Now this 1K stone, as all the Pride stones, are more aggressive than the grit rating would have you believe. And if you want a really high polish on your edge, the 10K stone that they have is pretty much a must-have. They are a little pricey. They are based in the US though. They are a family-owned company. They sent me these stones for evaluation, and I've got several videos showing them off, but overall I'm really satisfied and happy with these stones. So I want to cut the edge off and we will get started here. And it's been a while since I've used this sharpening pun, so forgive me if it looks a little awkward. I'm not used to having the stone up this high. It's almost up to my chest. I get asked every time I bring this out where I got this sink bridge. I got the plastic container from a local restaurant supply shop. I got the sink bridge. It's a Sahira sink bridge. Chef Knives to Go sells it. It's roughly $30, somewhere in that ballpark. I've been watching a lot of Stefan Wolf's videos. He's almost got me to the point where I want to try plateau sharpening again. Watching him do his micro bevels is a work of art, I tell you. No strop involved, and when he comes off those stones, it is just ridiculous. Well, I can't feel a burr. Looking at it really close under the light, I can't see any burr. I did an edge test, just cutting paper, and it cut cleanly, so we're going to go ahead and move on. This is the 6K stone, so I am making a pretty big jump here, 1,000 grit to 6,000, but given the way these stones work together, big jumps like that are absolutely doable. Once I go from the 6K, I'm going to probably hit the 8K, then 10K. It's not necessary to do the 8K, but I'm going to just go ahead and do it just because I want to get a nice reflective polish on this bevel. It is S30V. S30V in many cases likes a toothy edge, but with all my knives I just like the aesthetic of a polished edge, and it does cut just as good, at least in my line of work. With these Pride stones, you really don't need a lot of pressure. Just the weight of your hands is plenty. They all work very quickly, and as I said before, the grit rating is coarser than what you would normally think with a Japanese water stone. So this 6K is probably closer to a 3K. The 10K is probably closer to about a 6 or 8K. I really like the 8K. It's got that white appearance, so you can really see the metal being pulled off the knife. This one is very hard. We're talking about getting close to Sharpening Pro hardness here. And you see this load up, you would think that it's difficult to get off, but once I get done with this session, I'll show you. It pretty much just wipes right off. I want to keep it on the stone though, because it's going to help polish the bevel. Let me show you this buildup. For the most part, just comes right off. Take that right off. Final stone is 10,000 grit. Now this is not like a 10,000 grit from Nanawa Pro or Sharpening Pro, for example. This is actually closer to, I'd say, 8,000 Sharpening Pro, maybe well, it's not close to the 10,000 Nanawa Pro, I'll tell you that. It is finer than the 5,000 grit, I think. Very hard stone. This is on par with any of the Sharpening Pro stones. Very little cutting is occurring. This knife just feels like it's skating right across it, but I'm not after the edge or the cutting. I'm after the polish here. As you can see, there's very little swarf being deposited on the stone. Very, very little cutting is occurring, but this bevel is getting polished. And that's what I'm looking for. The Pride stones are made out of aluminum oxide. I believe they are shipped from overseas. They ship it from Germany. And this 10,000 grit stone is a very, very fine abrasive. Still not quite finished. just going to do some finishing passes and we will call this complete. So final step on a strop with white compound. I seem to be having a hell of a time getting this knife sharp. I don't know what the problem is. I would say it's my sharpening, but I've sharpened this knife like I've sharpened every other knife I've ever had. Nothing has changed. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to make one more attempt at this. With some different stones. And see what I can do. The thought is crossing my mind to just convex it. I don't want to take that step quite yet, although I think this would look fantastic with a convex bevel. I want to try one more stone set, that being my Imanishi 400 1K 6K combo, and see if I can squeeze out a little bit better sharpness from this guy, because what I'm seeing currently just isn't cutting it. So this is showing the tip of the knife. As you can see, it comes to a pretty nice point, and this is that area where you got half my bevel and half the bevel from Spyderco, where they changed the angle to make it match the rest of the bevel. You'll have to forgive my shaky hands here. It is hard to hold that underneath the microscope steady. Now this is going to be very shaky, but the angle we're looking at is directly on the apex. So I've got the knife with the spine down, apex towards the microscope. And as you can see, there's not much light shining. Pretty thin bevel, pretty thin apex. But right here in the middle, you can kind of start seeing some white. That's the light reflecting back. So where my apex widens ever so slightly. I think this is what caused my sharpness to have a bit of a downturn. Everything seemed pretty good up until this point, and right in the middle of the knife, it just doesn't get as keen. I appreciate you guys watching. If you have any questions or comments, as always, leave them below. Y'all have a good one.